Welcome everybody to your free GMAT prep hour. It is September 26th, 2021. I will be your host tonight. My name is Reed Arnold, guiding you through the wonderful world of the GMAT. Welcome to another free GMAT prep hour, those that are here live and those that are watching the recording in the future. Hope all is well with you and that your studying is going well. If you're looking for other free prep options, we have a few. You can try the first of any of our GMAT courses for free. It's a 9-week course and you get 1/9 of it for no money at all. You can try it out, see if you like it. And if nothing else, class 1, we talk about some big stuff. We talk about data sufficiency. Some motorcycles driving in the background. We talk about data sufficiency. We talk about sentence correction strategies. We talk about how the test works and just how to study. So honestly, I think it's just it's one of those things where even if you don't plan on dropping money for the course, sign up for a free first class, because why not? Don't tell my company I say that, but I think that's just, it's a free resource out there for you. You might as well take advantage of it. You can also try out, if you prefer more self-paced study, we have a program called Interact. That is our video course, really nifty little program. Much like the test, it will adapt to you as you're going. If you get a question right, the program will say, great, here's a harder question. Let's see how you do here. If you get a question wrong, the question will say, okay, well, let's dig into this a little bit more. Let's see where, let's go to these foundations, see where things are getting stuck. And you can try a sample of that product as well, see if it's something you would be interested in. Also, as of this year, in the last 6 months or so, we've started to make our Foundations of GMAT Math workshop for free. That is a 7-hour course, either one day or over a weekend, 2 3.5-hour sessions. Really wonderful course. I think anyone, even people who have really strong quant backgrounds, I think get something out of it. I got something out of it, and I have a math degree and had taught the GMAT for years before I took that course, but it changed the way I did division, for instance. You learn all sorts of arithmetic tricks on how to handle kind of that first level math stuff. And you talk about some of the concepts of the GMAT test in a very GMAT way. So free resource. We got one coming up here in a few weeks. Check out that website for any other, for these resources and the other products we offer. Okay, before we talk about what we are going to discuss today, I'm actually going to just pull up a few sentences. I will say it's sentence correction. But I want you to read these sentences, spend a minute, 2 minutes, and make some guesses about what you think we're going to talk about today. If you're watching the recording, I realize now you're going to know what this is because the title will be in the YouTube video, but see why these questions test that concept. It's about a minute and a half. Any guesses on what subject we're testing today? We are doing sentence correction, Kaylin. But what subject in sentence correction? Yeah. So a lot of people are getting it here. Not modifiers, nope. We are doing pronouns. Today is a pronoun day. You're going to become a pronoun pro. That is the theme of today's lessons. It's in fact the only major sentence correction topic that we have not yet had a free GMAT prep hour on. If you were to ask me, and I think several other teachers, they would say the most important subjects in sentence correction are subjects, verbs, and structures. Sentence structure itself, which I did a video on, modifiers, which I think Jeff Vollmer did a video on, parallelism, which I did a video on, comparisons, which Jeff did a video on, and now we're finally rounding it out with pronouns. These are the SC Big Five, in my opinion, and I think a lot of other teachers' opinion. So we're rounding out the team today and getting pronouns out there. All right. And so we're going to go through some of the main concepts in pronouns, and we'll keep coming back to this slide and showing to show how these sentences might be testing pronouns. Just a quick, I'm just going to put a damper on this right off the bat. I don't love pronouns. I think that they're not as systematic as some of the other splits out there, like subject-verb agreement, like opening modifier rules, like parallel structure. There's some nice, really objective, hard and fast rules. Pronouns are squishier in a way that frustrates me sometimes. And so it's not a split I often go to first, unless it just screams. There are certain sentences that scream pronouns. But if I can use, if there is a structure issue first, I do tend to lean there. But we'll talk about what I mean, why I feel this way about that was a mix of proteins and pronouns. I don't know why proteins was going to come out. We'll talk about why I think pronouns are sometimes a little squishier than people want them to be. It'd be very nice if it was as objective as some of these other subjects, but sometimes it's just squishy. Sometimes it's not. Often it is. First, let's dig into kind of the bread and butter, what you need to know about pronouns. We have at Manhattan Prep, we call it the 3 A's of pronouns: antecedents, agreement, and ambiguity. These are how pronouns are tested. These are the concepts you need to know to understand pronouns, and we're going to go through what they are and what they mean. Okay, so take a look at these 2 sentences here, and go ahead and choose A or B when you have one that you think is correct. Good. All right. Good. So I'm getting a lot of B's coming in, and B is correct. Why? Because A has a pronoun. And I'm going to steal a phrase from one of my fellow teachers, Christine. If you ever watch this, I'm stealing this from you. The hardest thing about pronouns is spotting them. The hardest thing about pronouns is just training your brain to see, hey, that's a pronoun in the sentence, so I got to think about it. We're casual about these. I mean, like so much else in sentence correction, but we're pretty casual with pronouns in day-to-day life. They're little words in a sentence. We kind of read them and blow past them because we usually know what they're referring to. Pronouns are about reference. They refer to some other noun in the sentence. Okay, that noun they refer to is called the antecedent. If you are British, you might pronounce it antecedent, which I think sounds cooler. But the problem with this first sentence is that the pronoun they does not have an antecedent. They are discussing, who is discussing? I know who it's meant to refer to: the people in the government officials, right? The man, the people who make the decisions, the man being an old misogynistic way to describe that, but the power, those people. But that's actually not in the sentence. We have the government, which is a singular entity, but we don't have the members of the government, the people who actually are doing the discussion. And so there's no antecedent, there's no plural noun to be the antecedent of the pronoun they. To fix it, I either need a plural noun to be brought in, or I need to change this. I guess you could make this it is discussing. You could turn the singular and make it refer to the government is discussing. I guess that would be allowed. But you have to fix something here. Or you could do what this sentence did, get rid of the pronoun. And my kind of, this is not an ironclad rule, but guessing with pronouns, fewer tends to be better. It's not ironclad. There are plenty of exceptions to this. But if you're ever, trying to decide between the answer choices, and you're like, they both look pretty good, and one has pronouns and one doesn't, err towards the one without pronouns. We'll fill that in here pretty soon. Okay. Just for fun here, let's take a look at just a third version of this sentence. And it will also show you how you could fix this, right? You could say politicians, get rid of the pronoun by bringing in a different noun to do the discussing. Here we use the passive voice. And there's sometimes a tendency to get rid of passive voice because people think it's bad or it sounds bad. The GMAT doesn't really have huge issues with passive voice. It is allowed. But if you wanted to keep it active, you could use politicians. I don't think the GMAT would make you choose between these two sentences for what it's worth, but you could bring in the plural politicians, the plural subject to actually do the discussion. For that first A, antecedents, the first thing to check, is it actually there? Is there actually an antecedent for the pronoun to replace? There's one kind of pronoun that does not need an antecedent. I'm sure there's a more professional grammatical term for it. We just call it the placeholder it. And that's for sentences like this. Due to the test's unusual adaptive algorithm, it is virtually impossible to get a perfect score on the GMAT. You have a pronoun, it. What's the antecedent? I don't know. Just like life in general, the way things are. Just, that's how it is. It's virtually impossible to get a perfect score on the GMAT. That's the only kind of pronoun that doesn't need an antecedent. That doesn't mean that that is right always. I can use that structure. Here's a retool of a sentence we saw earlier. Clothing store with unsold merchandise will put on a liquidation sale, and it is common to sell goods at break-even prices to avoid being overstocked. There it is, the placeholder it. What is common? Just it is common. Why would this be wrong then? If I'm allowed to do that kind of placeholder it, what's wrong with this sentence? Himanshu, I see your question. I'll answer that in just a moment. Why would this be wrong if I'm allowed to do a placeholder it? Yeah, good, Tanisha. The two phrases, the two clauses are disconnected now, right? I'm talking about this particular kind of clothing store with unsold merchandise. And I know what I mean is when they go on this liquidation sale, this is what they do. I'm making a pronoun error for those who are listening carefully. When this clothing store goes on a liquidation sale, it's common to sell goods at break-even prices to avoid being overstocked for that store, right? But if I just use the placeholder it's like I'm saying this truth about clothing stores or a clothing store. And then I'm saying this other just general fact, it's common to sell goods at break-even prices. It's not even clear that this is referring to the liquidation sale. I'm just saying it's common in general to sell goods at break-even prices. When what I'm trying to say is these stores or this store in this situation will sell goods at uneven prices, at break-even prices. So even though this is not grammatically wrong, to use this placeholder it. It's not connecting it, meaning it is not, it's fun using pronouns for pronouns. It's not connecting this second clause to the first clause in a way where the meaning is actually what is clearly trying to get across in this sentence. Okay. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to stop the share. So that's just a note about placeholder its. They are grammatically right, but that doesn't mean they're always correct. It could be a meaning issue. So someone asked about the difference between it and its, or its and its, I think. I believe. Yes. So its is it is. It's cold outside. Its means belonging to it, belonging to a thing, right? So the company sold its assets to the highest bidder, right? Its is the possessor. Now the GMAT never tests this. The GMAT does not test the difference between its, it is, and its possessive. That's an SAT thing. That doesn't happen in the GMAT. Ron has rules for when dummy pronouns are to be used. Have you memorized these rules, or are you just going based on meaning? I'm just going based on meaning. I don't have a list of rules for dummy pronouns. I'd be curious what Ron wrote there. I'm sure there's some wisdom to it. Yeah, dummy pronoun, the placeholder it or dummy pronoun, those are often interchanged. So some common myths and mistakes with pronoun antecedents, because there must be an antecedent in the sentence, right? But there are some common misconceptions here. The most common is probably that the antecedent is the noun closest to the pronoun. That's not the case. In fact, pronoun antecedent matching is kind of the Wild West. This is why it feels sometimes squishy to me. It's kind of like, as long as the noun is somewhere in the sentence, and it can be in a different clause, it can be before the pronoun can come before the antecedent, right? So as long as the noun for that pronoun is somewhere in the sentence, it seems pretty much like you're good to go. So it's not necessarily the noun closest to the pronoun. It doesn't, oh, I circled the wrong thing. It's not the noun necessarily closest to the pronoun. It doesn't have, the noun doesn't have to come before the pronoun. The pronoun sometimes comes first. The antecedent doesn't have to be in like the main structure. The subject of the sentence does not need to be the antecedent, right? So I can say, she kicked the ball and it soared over the fence, right? Well, what is it? The ball, but ball is not the subject of the sentence. Who cares? It's allowed. That's fine. You could even say, or you say, because she kicked it, the ball soared over the fence. There, pronoun before the antecedent, totally fine. Yeah, so JD, can the pronoun be in a prepositional phrase? I'll love to see it. Teachers, if you ever watch this and you disagree, please comment on the YouTube video. But as far as I can tell, like, yeah, an antecedent can come from a prepositional phrase. Let me try to think of an example. You do have to be a little bit careful with this, I can see. Yeah, so how like the demolition of several abandoned factories occurred yesterday. And people traveled to the sites to watch, and people, let's just say people traveled, just make this very clear. People traveled from great distance to watch them fall. I don't know if this is perfect, but like, I think that's allowed. What is them? The abandoned factories. But abandoned factories is part of a prepositional phrase, the demolition of the several abandoned factories. So I don't think there's any reason a pronoun can't come, the antecedent of a pronoun can't come in a modifying prepositional phrase. Again, this might not be a perfect sentence because I'm going on the fly here, but as far as I can tell, that's totally allowed. It's really the Wild West. It just needs to be in the sentence. Okay. So which of these sentences that we saw at the beginning have a antecedent, an absent antecedent problem? Let's call that the absent antecedents. Which of these have that issue? Just call these numbers, right? 1, 2, 3. 2, 6. Yeah, good, Amanita. 1 has an antecedent, an absent antecedent. It has driven the price consumers pay. What is it? What has driven the price consumers pay down? Well, it's the fact, like it's this whole thing, this whole notion that manufacturers have struggled to procure raw materials. We do this kind of thing in casual discussion all the time, but that's not allowed on the GMAT. The pronoun can't replace a whole clause. It can't replace a whole idea. It has to replace a noun. That's the antecedent. And so this would be wrong. Someone said 6 as well. Yeah, good, JD. And someone else said the last one. Great. This one is a little bit sneakier. It is the building, but here's the thing. Building is not actually in the sentence. The building is a possessive modifier here, possessing the shadow. So the shadow is the noun. And so the shadow is longer than the shadow is tall. Wait, that's not right. I know I'm supposed to be the building here because that's clearly the point of the sentence, but that's an absent antecedent. You can replace a noun with a possessive pronoun. You can't really replace a possessive noun with a non-possessive pronoun. I could say the building's shadow. I could do this. The building's shadow is longer. The building's shadow is wider than its base. I can say something like that. You can replace possessive with possessive. And I can say the building has a shadow that is longer than its height. That's a weird comparison, I admit, but yeah, for the sake of pronouns, let's just leave it because I'm lazy. I can replace a noun with a possessive, but you can't really replace a possessive with a non-possessive. That's not allowed. So 1 and 6 have the absent antecedents. Very good. Let's now talk about agreement. Take a look at these two and choose A or B. Yeah. So again, people are saying B, and B is correct. Okay. You have the pronoun split. It's at the very end of the sentence, it and they. Okay. We have a plural pronoun and a singular pronoun. And this is, I honestly wrestled with this one a little bit. And again, if teachers want to jump on the chat, if you watch the YouTube video later and think this is maybe not fair, that's fine. I wasn't sure about this one myself, because could they be the members that recommend? I don't know. I kind of think not. I'm pretty sure that, like, the meaning of the sentence is that this subcommittee is the one that is recommending cutting spending, not the members of the subcommittee. It's the subcommittee as an entity, as a singular entity. Yes, it's made of senior members. It's comprised of the senior members in the Senate, but it's the subcommittee that is announcing what it recommends. Like, that just seems the clear meaning to me. And it's one subcommittee. Yeah, so Kayleen, I see you saying there, think about the portions you can cut out, but that's kind of the thing, though. What I was saying earlier is that you don't have to, the antecedent doesn't have to be in the main structure of the sentence, I'm pretty sure. I think the antecedent can be in one of those modifiers that could, for structure purposes, get taken out. You know, I think the real reason this is it and not they is just meaning. It's what the subcommittee has announced about what the subcommittee is recommending. Okay. And so since it's one subcommittee, I use the singular it. Now, this is the most common trick the GMAT will do. I call this the singular plural. This is when a noun, this is a singular noun that feels plural. Right? Often a group, a single group comprised of, a single group made up of many individuals. So it feels like we're talking about the individuals. And, in a different sentence, I could probably make the individuals the focus, right? I could say the most senior members in the nation's Senate sit on a subcommittee and announced that blah, 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 they recommend. Like, if I wanted to make the senior members the people that recommend, I could do that. I could make them more the focus. But it seems here really that it is the fact that it's this subcommittee that has announced something, it's going to be a singular recommendation. But it feels, since I talk about intentionally all the senior members, it starts to feel a little plural, but it's the subcommittee that is doing the announcing. Okay. That is the second A of pronoun splits agreement. A pronoun must agree with its antecedent in number. The GMAT, FYI, will not deal with gendered pronouns. So you'll see no Sarah went to the store and she will buy, or Sarah went to the store and he will buy. They're not going to make you decide what gender Sarah is. But you do look for number. And they use very similar tricks as subject-verb agreement. They make nouns feel plural when they're singular and feel singular when they're plural. They kind of have tricks for both. Okay, Zoom's being very laggy today. But these pronouns there, it, it's, they, them, their. Wow. Can't change slide at all. These pronouns, let's see if I can just stop share and restart. We call because they are so common. Nope, can't at all. because it is not Zoom. It is sorry, gang, let me pause the recording real quick. All right, gang, sorry about that. A little technical issue, but the slide should be working now. So we're talking about singular and plural agreement. The 5 deadly pronouns. These are the pronouns that show up most, that you want to pick up an antenna for. You know, I sometimes tell students, like, snap your fingers every time you see anywhere in life it's they, them, there. Just do a little snap, okay, to make yourself really pick up these words, because they appear kind of out of nowhere, you know. And again, they're little words. It's easy to blow right past them. The most common trap is what I just mentioned there earlier, the singular plural. They do plural singulars as well, but those are a little bit trickier. It's usually a singular plural. Okay. One, it's grammatically singular, but it evokes the feeling of plural. So which of these sentences, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, had a singular plural pronoun agreement issue? Yeah, good. The number of stars. To quantify them, are we quantifying the stars? That doesn't really make sense. We're quantifying a number of stars. So it should be singular it, to quantify the number of stars. Yeah. A clothing store, and they prefer their shelves. It's one clothing store. This is my favorite kind of singular plural, the generic stand-in. Right? I'm talking about a generic clothing store with unsold merchandise, but of course it makes you feel like I'm talking about all of the stores that have this situation, and that's a lot of stores, right? It feels plural, and it could have been. I could have said clothing stores with unsold merchandise. I could have made it plural, but sometimes the GMAT uses a singular as a kind of like generic stand-in. It's almost like a variable in math. It's like, here's X, you know, X is a clothing store, one clothing store. So you treat it singular, even though you know the sentence is telling a story about all the clothing stores. Grammatically, it's actually just one. Any other singular plural issues here? Sentence 1 is more that antecedent absent, the absent antecedent, because it is referring to this whole issue of struggling. So 1 is more the missing antecedent. So not sentence 1. Sentence 2 does the same trick, the singular plural. I say, because the dolphin. Returning to mirrors to examine a spot that has been painted on their side. Many people think they should be considered. But I'm using a stand-in, singular dolphin, or talking about, you know, the species of dolphin. They do this a lot with animals because it's so easy to do a singular plural with it, with them. Yeah, with them. So this is a singular, but the plural, the pronouns are plural. This would be wrong. Yeah, JD, if I saw that question, it would be singular. Is. It's one store. H&M is. The company is. Okay. So look out for that singular plural, especially with entities that are singular items made up of a group. You know, management, the board of directors, the species of animal, those things that feel plural but can be grammatically singular. Yeah, JD, even though H&M can have multiple outlets, it's one company, right? If you're talking about all the outlets, if you say the outlets of H&M, then you're talking about the individual as a plural, then it's plural, right? That would be a plural singular. If I say the outlets, all the outlets of H&M, right? I mean, that would obviously be plural because I would say are closing their doors. But I would say H&M is closing its doors. H&M is one company. That's a little metaphorical for the GMAT, but the company is singular, all the outlets would be plural. Choose your pronoun accordingly. Okay. Let's take a look at the last A, look at these sentences, A or B, or I'm also going to introduce the option of maybe neither of these is correct. And remember the 3 A's: antecedents, agreement, ambiguity. So suggest that maybe both is wrong, that the they is ambiguous. Who is they? Another vote for neither. A vote for the first one. Okay. Final guesses, A or B, or neither? The answer here is actually B. And this is where things get most squishy, is this ambiguity thing. If it's singular or plural, that's a pretty good split to find. That's pretty objective. If there's no antecedent, that's a pretty good objective split. But ambiguity can get real squishy, I think. One thing the GMAT does a pretty good job of, though, is if you are starting a clause, a new clause that has the same subject of the old clause as the old clause, then you can link the two as, you can say that this is the senior executives. Okay. So even though they, is it, a lot of people say, like, was they the senior executives or the employees? How are we supposed to know? They're both plural. So how are we supposed to know? And when people learn about ambiguity, this is one of the things about pronouns. Every pronoun is a little bit ambiguous. Or not every, but almost every pronoun is a little bit ambiguous. And so when people learn about ambiguity, they tend to go overboard on it. They tend to get really, fascistic about their ambiguity. They're just like, that's ambiguous. There's multiple nouns that the pronoun could replace. That is very often the case. Okay. Ambiguity is it's a comparative thing. Don't try to determine if a pronoun is objectively ambiguous. Determine if a pronoun in a sentence is more ambiguous than one of the other answer choices, and choose the one that's less ambiguous. But because of just kind of GMAT, what's the word? Not rules, but tradition. That's not the word either, but that's the best word I can come up with right now. Because of GMAT tradition, this first they, because it's the subject of both clauses, we will allow it to be the senior executives. The problem is when we use a second pronoun, especially so close to that same plural pronoun, it really feels like it's the same group. The senior executives take a special interest in the senior executives' career progress. What? No. I know this they as a person. I know it's the junior employees. I know that second there is supposed to be the junior employees. The senior executives care about the juniors' career progress. Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped sentences here. This sentence gets rid of that second there and just replaces it with the employees is. And so this clearly refers to the junior employees. This is also something related to pronouns, referent words or referral words. Again, I don't know the actual grammatical term, but these work very similar to pronouns. Right? The employees, well, which employees am I talking about? The employees in the sentence, the junior employees. So this word is like a pronoun noun. It's like a noun pronoun for the junior employees. It's those employees. So it clarifies what that there is supposed to be. Even though I know what it is, I want it to be as objective as possible. Okay. And again, fewer pronouns tends to be better because fewer pronouns tends to clear up ambiguity. You can even do something like, take a look at sentence B here. We'll take a look at B and C. A is the sentence that we've already seen. They is okay, but who is there? This is the problem in A. Take a look at B and C. Right, JD, this is the horror of pronouns. You can make a sentence where the pronoun as the subject of the second clause is not the subject of the first clause. That's maybe even more common, right? So your example, I like Sam and Bob because they are nice. Right? Because they are nice, they is the pronoun, it's a subject, but Sam and Bob are not the subject of the first clause. That's okay. You're allowed to do that. The pronoun subject of the second clause does not have to be the subject of the first clause, but you're allowed to consider that unambiguous if there are multiple possibilities, right? So if it was like Sam and Bob like Jane and Shauna because they are nice. Well, who's nice there? This would be ambiguous. Well, I'm sorry. This according to GMAT rules, they would be Sam and Bob because it's the subject of the second clause would match the subject of the first clause. If I wanted Jane and Shauna to be nice, to be the nice ones, I'd really have to change the sentence. I'd have to say like, because Jane and Shauna are nice, Sam and Bob like them. But if you have a pronoun here and there's multiple options in the first clause, the GMAT tends to say it's the subject of the first clause if the subject matches. Okay. And again, this is why I don't like pronouns. They get squishy. Like, I don't even know if that's a grammatical rule. It's just kind of convention. That's the word I was looking for. GMAT convention. B and C here are okay, despite the gross number of, as Kayleen said, so many theys and theirs. But they're structured well so that it's unambiguous, right? This they, again, points to the senior executives. We're going to allow that to pass. But now we use another they or their, except we've introduced a new pronoun to be the antecedent. So that's okay. The best one yet, of course, is the one that only has one pronoun for one antecedent, or one antecedent for the pronouns. It's just easier to deal with. The senior executives mentor junior employees. using a modifier now, helping them, this being the object, so helping them with their, the same group, career goals. Great, that'd be fine. This is probably the best. This is okay, and in fact, this exact structure has been a right answer on an official GMAT problem. And I do not think the GMAT would make you choose between B and C. Okay. I like C better just because it's, as Kayleen, just there's less pronouns to deal with. But I don't think the GMAT would make you choose between B and C. But they both technically could be right, even though there's a boatload of pronouns in B especially. JD, but I don't. I think it was in the verbal review guide. So just remember about ambiguity. Just because it's a thing, that don't go too extreme with it, because ambiguity is that's always there. Pronouns are inherently ambiguous. Really make sure you're comparing a sentence to another sentence. If you're going to eliminate a sentence for being ambiguous, make sure you found the sentence that is less ambiguous. Okay, I've seen many times a student get rid of an answer, sometimes the right answer, because they say, oh, well, that pronoun's ambiguous. And they don't realize that all the other answer choices have the same pronoun that is as ambiguous, but you have to use it because it's in every answer choice. But they get rid of the right answer because they're like, well, it's, I don't know what the antecedent is. Like this sentence here, this is an example we use. Like if these were your two choices, Colton lived in yurts decorating them, or Colton lived in yurts decorating it. What did Colton decorate? He decorated his yurts, plural. So it has to be them, right? This has to be the answer. But it's like, well, years is also plural. Did he decorate the years? No, he decorated the yurts. We have to choose. We only have choices with pronouns. The pronoun has to be plural because I know he decorated the yurts and not the years. I'm sorry, because I know he decorated the yurts and yurts is plural. I know he didn't decorate the years. Is that ambiguous objectively? Yeah, probably, but who cares? This is the answer. It's got to be A. Yurts are a kind of tent. It's like a fancy big tent. But it's plural because it ends in an S. And so, yeah, could you make the argument that in the most objective world, them could be the years or the yurts? I guess. But with these two choices, I don't allow neither on this choice. With these two choices, it has to be A because it can't be it. So just be cautious with ambiguity. Make sure you've found the more the less ambiguous answer choice if you're going to get rid of something for ambiguity. Okay. When you see a pronoun in an underline, compare the answer choices. If they have the same pronoun, you could find another issue to address, but I'm actually going to, there's another thing you can do that I'll mention here in a second. Either that pronoun is fine, or there might be something else to, well, actually I lied. No, excuse me. Yeah, they all use the same pronoun. It's almost certainly okay. Find something else. If the pronoun is changing, find the antecedent. Make sure it matches in number. If some drop the pronoun, it's probably some ambiguity, and probably the one with fewer pronouns is less ambiguous. These tend to be the splits for pronouns. But here's another fun thing we can do with pronouns. Take a look at this sentence. I've only given you 4 answer choices. So I have an A, a B, another A. We have ABBA. I'd make a Mamma Mia joke, but I just don't think I could live with myself. We have another A C or a D. Interesting, JD. Why do you feel so anti-A and B? An A. So kind of a shotgun spread of answers here. This is also a good sentence just for a broader kind of sentence correction lesson. Those of you that chose, what word made you choose the answer you chose? Whatever answer you chose, there should be a word that was the reason. Good, Pat. Good, Rachel. We have a pronoun in this sentence, but it comes late, and it comes well after the underline, but it's singular. If you just look at these answer choices, it's really hard to decide which one is right. The turkey is one of the commonly hunted species. Okay, sure. Turkeys are among the most commonly hunted species. I can't say that's wrong. A turkey is among the most commonly hunted species. That one feels a little off because a turkey feels like I'm talking about one act, like, you know, an actual turkey. So that one probably isn't right. Turkeys are one of feels not great. So I'm probably going to get rid of C and D. But it's really like these two, especially, they seem fine. I have no problem with these until I get to the very, 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 very end of the sentence, when all of a sudden they've thrown in two pronouns, it and its, and they're singular pronouns, and I'm stuck with them. They're not in the underline. So I need a singular antecedent, and that would be A. Not because turkeys is wrong on its own. Well, because JD, turkeys is plural and one of is singular. So that just doesn't seem to work. Turkeys are one of. That seems to not, kind of makes my brain spasm. It's, I guess, similar to pronoun agreement. You know, one of the most commonly hunted species, if I'm going to use one of, this is like a pronoun phrase. It's a referent. What is one of the most hunted species? Turkeys or the turkey? It's got to be the turkey if I'm going to use that expression. Well, I just think, oh, and if I say a turkey, that's like a singular turkey. I don't know, this is more idiomatic. I maybe shouldn't have included this one. I just wanted to give you all more options. But like the turkey can mean the specific turkey, but it's also like the species of turkey. And again, the sentence, I made this up very fast. This might not be the best. Don't worry too much about the turkey, a turkey. The main lesson here is that sometimes the pronoun is not in the underline, and that means you need to choose the right antecedent. Sometimes the pronoun is in the underline and you find the antecedent out of the underline. Sometimes the pronoun is out of the underline and the antecedent is in the underline. That's a tricky thing they like to do. More broadly, it's very important that you finish the sentence. Sometimes the biggest clue to what should be underlined, to what should be in the underline, is at the very end, and seems like you could have stopped long before, right? You probably feel like I could have stopped there. Yeah, but sometimes the most important stuff comes late. Don't, you know, at least once read the full sentence. And again, build your antenna to notice the 5 deadly pronouns. Okay. JD, you're asking, I would say the lion is one of the most beautiful species. The lion is, or lions are, one of the most beautiful species. I would say the lion is, for the same reasons we just discussed. If I'm going to say one of, don't look at the question right now, we'll do that in a second. If I'm going to say one of the most beautiful species, I'm going to say the lion. For one, because lions are not a species. That, lions are the members of the species. The lion can refer to like the species of lion. We use that to mean that. So I would say the lion is one of the most beautiful species. So take a look at these two sentences and choose A or B. Is this one we've already done? We've done this one, did we not? Yeah. I don't know why I duplicated it. I'm trying to decide if there was a difference. We'll come back to that. Which of these answer choices, though, has a potential ambiguity issue? Two is more a number agreement issue. That's not ambiguous. That's just disagreement. They don't agree in number. I think this one probably has an at least makes me suspicious. Again, ambiguity is always comparative, and I don't have any comparison here, but I am a little suspicious about that. Is it the corporation, or is it supposed to be the fast food chain's CEO that backed out of the deal? I also don't know if before counts as a conjunction in such a way where I know it's the same subject, but I would be curious about this one, and I would look at the other answer choices and see if that ambiguity was cleared up in some of the others. Okay, and here's another note about ambiguity clearing up. They wouldn't give, they would make it clear which CEO would be the one who shut the deal down. They wouldn't give you like before the CEO of the national corporation backed out of the deal. And they wouldn't give you a different answer that said before the CEO of the regional fast food chain backed out of the deal. Once they clear up ambiguity or potential ambiguity from a pronoun, that's supposed to be the antecedent. They're never going to replace an ambiguous pronoun with the wrong antecedent noun, if that makes sense. When they replace a pronoun with a noun, you now know that's the noun it's supposed to be. I say that with 97% confidence. Okay. So that is the one that makes me wonder about ambiguity. Okay. All right. I think let's probably wrap up the discussion regarding pronouns. I actually had a pretty hard time, just so you all know. I had a hard time finding official pronoun questions that I'm allowed to use. We have copyright restrictions on certain questions, and in the ones that I'm allowed to use for you all, it's tough to find ones that work. But here's what I will do for those that watch the recording. I'm going to pull up a few, and you can hit pause and use these as examples. for those that are here, I'm going to actually wrap up this discussion because I promised you all I'd spend a few minutes answering questions. And I know we had a little technology hitch there for a while, but I want to fulfill that promise. Okay, so those are a few questions that I think have relevant pronoun issues that we discussed today. Do a little digging and see if you can find where those are. Common pronoun traps and mistakes, as we mentioned, the singular plural and the plural singular. And of course, with almost every GMAT trick, they're going to put so much stuff in the way. Okay. That's the GMAT's favorite trick with sentence correction, is they pad it with crud. The implied antecedent, that's the like where it's the whole clause, you know, he ran around the lake and it tired him out. Well, what is it? It's, you know, the activity running around a lake, but that's not allowed. Ambiguity is a common issue, of course. And then there's the false ambiguity, the one that feels ambiguous, but you know what? You have to make the choice and go with it. Sometimes the answer, like the key, is outside the underlined, often after the underlined. Keep an eye out for that as well. If you're looking for other free stuff, check out our upcoming courses at that link. Come to a Foundations of Math course, try our in-person sessions for free. I will now stick around, and I'll keep the recording going if anyone does wish to watch the Q&A session, but I'll stick around for 10 minutes or so and answer questions for you all. All right. If you are leaving now, until next time, best of luck in your studies. So now, I mean, you can ask any questions, gang. It can be about pronouns, or it can be, this is open forum. So Tanisha, you have to go back to the third one. We're not really, I didn't put these up to do them. I put these up so that people could pause and watch them. Or people who watch the recording can pause and just try them. But this was the third one we did. Or this was the third one I put up. And I like this one a lot, actually. It has to do with the key being long after the underline. Notice we have here the media. The media has a focus. The media has been focused. The media have focused. The media has been focused. Is media plural or singular? How am I supposed to decide? It actually could be either. I can say the media is, or I can say the media are. We use plural and singular with that word with some frequency. So where's the key for deciding whether the media is plural or singular here? Anyone have a decision on how to choose media has or media have? If I'm going to make media singular or plural? There you go, Owen. They have overlooked. Well, who's they? It's the media. And so I have to use a plural media. It's got to be C. I can't say the media has because this is a singular media because it has a singular verb. I can't use the media has because that's singular. I can't use the media has because that's singular. Then I guess there's D, where it's media analyses, which is plural. But the analyses don't overlook the cost of, like, media here is a modifier of the analyses, and the analyses don't overlook the cost. That doesn't make sense. So it has to be C, simply because this little pronoun they that comes after the underline. Okay. So I just like that question. I think it's a nifty little trick. I have some questions. Let's see. Other than basic foundations of quant, what top areas do you think are crucial to nail to get around a quant 46? It's a big question. I mean, I'll just say to get a quant 46, what you're basically how you're performing on the test is going to be something like 1 or 2 relatively low level misses. 2 would maybe be too much. I'd say 0 to 1, 500 to 600 level miss. You're going about 75% at the 600 to 700 level. And you're going, honestly, 30% at the 700 level. This will get you a 45, 46. So it's not so much a single topic or, you know, which topics are most important. It's that you perform, you know, virtually perfect at the easy questions and the easy intermediate questions. And then the intermediate and maybe the hard intermediate, you're going about 75%. That's pretty accurate. So you hardly ever miss easy stuff. You're pretty accurate on the intermediate and slightly hard stuff. And then the very hardest, you're, you know, barely better than guessing. But that'll get you a quant 46. And my advice also is that, you know, eventually it stops being about, do you know the concepts? Once you're scoring a 39 or 40, I suspect, maybe like a 40, 41, you have a conceptual understanding strong enough to get the 46. It becomes more about process and strategy and habits to avoid silly mistakes and to do questions the most efficient way. And so people sometimes overstudy concepts. Make sure you're studying for strategy as well. You know, if you got to think about this, is not just the analogy I've used lately is taking the GMAT is like playing a musical instrument, like sight reading. You know, I don't know if you play anything, but like sometimes for auditions, they'll put a piece of music in front of you and you got to play it. A piece of music you've never seen, right? Well, in order to do that, you have to know how to read music, of course, right? You have to know what notes the music is referring to on the sheet, but knowing that is not enough to play it. You know, you can learn how to read sheet music well enough so that you know exactly what notes are supposed to be played. Totally different game than actually playing them. And so those concepts, those foundations, that's being able to read sheet music. You have to know how to do it. But that's not enough to get a great score. Once you have the conceptual understanding down enough to read sheet music, it's then, okay, how do I play music, right? How do I actually use these concepts to work through a question and answer it in an organized, efficient way? Starting a journey on the GMAT is the best place for in-prep items on the website or YouTube. Trying to get when you say in-prep items, Amanita, I'm not entirely sure what you mean. We do have our YouTube channel, which has the recordings of these free GMAT prep hours, and we have other videos as well. But most of our resources, like the classes and the Interact program and our books, you can buy through our website. What are the tips for just starting out with sentence correction, but is generally good with verbal? Structure, 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 structure. You want to become a structure master. I made a free GMAT prep hour that I think covers it fairly well. The 3 pieces of sentence structure, it's a good place to start. But starting to read sentences a little bit differently and see how sentences are built is key to sentence correction success. Yeah, so the recordings of these free GMAT prep hours, we don't record our class for people and publish those, but we do record these free prep hours. Those are found on the YouTube channel. Going back to the will versus would. If Sophie ate pizza tomorrow, she would become ill. Yeah, I think your question has nailed it, JD. The ate is past tense. I think it should be if Sophie eats pizza tomorrow, though. I don't love that sentence. Describes, I know the concepts, but during the exams I overthink and we get some easy questions wrong, which kills my score potential. Yeah, your score ceiling is determined by the easiest questions you miss. That sets your ceiling. Okay. So if you miss too many easy questions, the GMAT just says, well, I can't give you above a 39. You know, yeah, you did great on some of these hard questions, but you missed all these 500 level questions. Can't give you above a 39. Those easy misses, that's what you want to clean up. Any other questions I can answer, Dan? JD, comma verbing modifiers have to describe the clause. That's why this sentence doesn't make sense. Right. This is the same structure, same grammatical structure. He woke up in bed at 10 a.m. and then a comma ing modifier. So it's not grammatically wrong. It's just that how did he wake up in bed walking down the street? Doesn't make sense. He woke up in bed blinking at the sunlight. Sure, that happens when you wake up. I can understand how that happened. Yeah, sure. But this is no good. Reading for meaning advice. Oh, and I think I know what you mean. Could you specify the question? JD, if I see some questions that were part of the old OGs have been dropped. No, it's not that they're no good. It's just that the GMAT, the people behind the GMAT wanted to mix up the questions they offer. I don't think there's, maybe some of them they've determined are biased or unfair, but I kind of doubt it. I think they're just old questions that they just wanted to put some new questions in and they took some old questions out. Owen, yeah, I mean, reading for meaning, that's a big question and a big thing. I would look at, I have free GMAT prep hours on it. First thing to know is that meaning comes from structure. So I would first look at the 3 pieces of sentence structure. I would look at modifiers in meaning, which is another free GMAT prep hour, and I would look at reading like a robot for meaning and structure. That was one I did. Okay, so the key to meaning is that you're trying to have a strong sense of how structure works, the rules of structure. And you use that to determine the meaning of a sentence, not your own understanding. You make the sentence mean what it's supposed to mean based on the rules of structure and modifiers, right? So what does a modifier modify? Is it describing the right thing in the sentence structurally? If it's not, the sentence is wrong. Okay. but build meaning out of the structure of the sentence rather than use your human understanding to, that's the thing, your human understanding is always pretty much going to know what the sentence is going for in sentence correction. The game is using the rules of structure and grammar to make, to realize where the wrong answers either have objective grammatical mistakes or the meaning in the structure of that sentence is wrong or ambiguous. Start with structure and therefore understand structure. Any last questions? Oh, I'm sorry, Jay. Animal hide shields with wooden frames were essential items of military equipment, protecting warriors against enemy animals and arrows and spears. Yeah, sure. What is your, this is considered, do you think this describes how spears were essential? Yeah. Protecting warriors against arrows and spears, that's part of being essential military equipment, for sure. Right. These things were considered, were essential items of military equipment, protecting warriors against arrows and spears. Yeah, this is linked to, this is part of why these things were essential items of military equipment. Sure, no problem with that at all. Kayleen, I've never heard that before, but I'm curious about it. The comma means because. I think what you're saying is that you can say, you can almost think of it like these things were essential items of military equipment. Because they protect warriors or protected warriors against arrows and spears. I think that's a pretty handy little trick. I don't think it has to be that way. Let me think of a sentence that where the cause and effect wouldn't necessarily be quite so, like the one I did earlier, right? So let's say he woke up, or he walked down the street. Let's just do this. He walked down the street whistling a happy song, right? Here he didn't walk down the street because he whistled. It's more, he walked down the street while he whistled a happy song. So maybe I'm kind of wondering if you could do like, if you could replace the comma ing with a while subject verbed or because subject verbed. Either one would be like, yeah, that modifying makes sense. But I can't say he walked down the street or he woke up in his bed while he walked down the street. Or I can't say he woke up in his bed because he walked down the street. Neither of those make any sense. So that ing modifier he woke up in his bed walking down the street. Doesn't make sense, right? It's not grammatically wrong. It's just which of these is this trying to mean? Both of them are stupid nonsense, right? That doesn't make sense. Okay, so I've never thought of it this way, but I like the comma. It means because or while. I think that's probably a pretty succinct summary of how comma ing modifiers work. They either mean because the subject also does this verb, or they mean while the subject also does this verb. I like that. I'm stealing this for sure, and I'm glad it's recorded. Nifty little bonus for everyone that might help you with comma ing modifiers. I'd be a little cautious with when, because when means like in a specific like circumstance. And I think we're just talking about in the circumstances of doing the first verb, right? In the circumstances of the time when he woke up in his bed. Like this specific circumstance, this specific event, not even circumstance, this event. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think when works, but I like because and while. I think we're thinking about comma ing modifiers as either because or while conjunction. I think that's a really great thing. I'm going to be using it a lot. So Kayleen, the paralegal, doing good work today. All right, gang, I gotta close this up. I've gone long. But thank you all for asking questions and for giving great teaching tools that I'm going to steal and take credit for forever. So thank you, Kayleen. I won't take credit for it. I will tell you that I was taught by a student. I hope to see you all at other free GMAT prep hours. My email, for those that don't know it, is readarnold@manhattanprep.com. If you have any questions about GMAT or studies or whatnot, our program, let me know. And I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.